Bags at 92.3 Nigeria Info. I am Kala Dakarubatabo, and you are, listening to me and my guest Kolawole Oluwadare talk about corruption and how it has affected governance, and you, of course, and how it also relates to the current state of the economy in the country. 29 minutes can pass the hour 4, and I'd like to welcome back my guest. Welcome back, Kolawole.
Thank you very much.
All right. So before we went for that commercial break, you were talking about, the fight against corruption and if it is a sincere fight or if it's a media fight. But before you go on, I'd like to read an excerpt from one of the newspaper publications for today, where it is talking about the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission recovering over 30 billion naira from the 37 plus billion naira allegedly laundered in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs under the former minister Sadiya Umar Farouk. Now, sources in the anti-graft agency who spoke to the newspaper correspondent on Friday said the commission had also uncovered over 500 million naira from the scam associated with Umar Farouk's successor, Betta Edu, who was recently suspended by President Bola Tinubu. So that means there has been successive corruption allegations in that ministry. But before we also continue, I'd like to read this one that says the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission quizzed Abubakar Ahmad Sirika over an alleged 8.06 billion naira contract fraud in the Federal Ministry of Aviation. Abubakar is the brother of immediate past Minister Adi Sirika, believed to have awarded the contracts to his siblings. Now, it is believed that 3 billion naira or 3 plus billion naira was found in one of the accounts and has been the account has been frozen by the EFCC. The brother Abubakar, that's the brother of Adi Sirika, Abubakar is a level 16 officer, a deputy director in the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. Now, when you hear stories like this and the people involved, you want to ask yourself, really, what can the agencies really do? I mean, this is the brother of, at the time, a serving minister. What can an agency like the EFCC do, or the DSS, in terms of fighting corruption?
Thank you very much. And that is why it's important to understand the various mechanisms that are in place to fight corruption. There is the preventive and there is the punitive, which can call prosecutory. And then there is a recovery aspect of these kinds of things. You read out some of the successes that EFCC has recorded this year, and they've recorded some over the years also. That forms part of the motions that I've mentioned earlier. But much more importantly, what are the mechanisms that should have been in place or that was in place that did not prevent those funds from being illegally stolen in the first place? And are we sure that those mechanisms have now been put in place to ensure that these recoveries from the EFCC don't go the same route? Don't forget, these monies that the EFCC has just recovered left the public purses into private pockets. Is there anything that has changed to ensure that these monies that the EFCC has recovered and put back in the system do not go the same route? Which is why we're talking about asset declaration mechanisms, the auto general mechanisms, the Public Procurement Act, and all those various systems that should ideally prevent corruption and ensure that if anything goes wrong in that system, people are apprehended. So it is not enough to celebrate recoveries. It is not enough to celebrate discoveries like you mentioned about the Ministry of Aviation or the ones by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. It is much more important to build structures in place to ensure that these things do happen. And if they do happen, you get caught swiftly. And a very good example of those mechanisms is the Freedom of Information Act that mandates public institutions to proactively provide information about what they do so that people, including the finances, inflow and outflow, expenditure and budgetary allocations, to ensure that this is prevented. But you see, in a system where those at the highest office in the land, and I'm talking about the office of the president, do not have adequate regard for the rule of law, these systems will not function. they will not be able to do their jobs the way they ought to. And that is why we would be in this kind of situation. For instance, and just to give you a bit of an example, why would we have to go to court, and I'm talking about SERAP, to compel the federal government to disclose how they've expended the loans, millions of naira, billions of naira they got from China to install CCTV in Abuja? We went to court. The court gave judgment in favor of SERAP, and I will say on behalf of the Nigerian people, for the government to disclose, and that judgment is yet to be obeyed. And so this just shows an insight into the way and manner from which public institutions, starting from the office of the president, disregards the rule of. And so what do you expect when you see such important aspects of transparency and accountability not being adhered to? It's not surprising that we're here, actually.
And now you've mentioned the freedom of information. Is that really functional in Nigeria? I really want to ask, because I think I was in a meeting at some point, and that was brought up, and everybody was trying to rack, to think if it ever has worked. I'm wondering.
It does. And I wanted to ask whether that's supposed to be a rhetorical question. It does. It works. And that is why the Auditor General's report that I just made reference to is available on the website of the Auditor General of the Federation. The Auditor General did not publish that report and keep it. By law, he is mandated to send it to the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly, and he has done that. And he has put that document on the website of the Auditor General of the Federation for Nigerians to pick it and see. So it works. It is just that in the failure of those who hold public offices, again, I will make reference to the office of the president, setting that standard for obeying the rule of law, it does encourage impunity on the part of other people. And also, if you go to the website of the Budget Office of the Federation, for instance, you will see details of the Appropriation Act. You will see details of the budget. You will also go to the Debt Management Office website. You will see details of Nigeria's public debt as of today. But when you ask the National Assembly now, how did they arrive at 300 billion allocation for them for this year? Then you won't find details.
So that was what I was referring to, because you want to know what the local government is spending. For instance, you can get details. You want to know how much the governor is spending. You know, okay, fine, there is the Appropriation Act published, but you don't still know how this money is spent, because you want to follow the money even though it's been put on print, but we don't see this information or this pieces of information. That's why I asked the question if the FOI actually is really operational, because even when you tell them the freedom of information, they laugh at you. And
it works. It works in some instances. It doesn't. And when I mean works, it works. The law is not perfect, but the law is fine. Okay. What we need is the people, public institutions and public officers, to obey the law and follow it. But when we have the president disobeying orders of course, what do you expect the governor to do? So 2 weeks ago, SERAP had sent an FOI to all the governors in Nigeria. We had sent a freedom of information request asking the governors to show details of how much they have disbursed to the local government under their states, out of the federal allocations that has come from the federal government into the joint accounts held by the state and local governments. So if you go to the website of the Accountant General of the Federation, you will see details of how much has been disbursed per time to the joint accounts held by the state and local government, but you will not see any information as to what the states have sent to local government. And we've seen even the former President Buhari made allegations in a public event where he had complained about some activities of governors and the misuse of local government funds. And so those are the kind of public officers that disregard this law at will, and we have to go to court to ensure that this is done. But when the president is not setting the pace for these kind of things, again, what do you expect?
All right. Okay. So let's see now. Let's come to the part where I asked the question: how is this affecting the current state of the nation? How has corruption over the years? Because when we look at the state of the nation, people are crying as it relates to the economy, as it relates to insecurity. Can we link corruption to all of this?
Of course it is. I just told you of a judgment we got in last year, mandating the federal government to provide details of how they spent the hundreds of billions of naira they got from China, which was to install CCTV security and other security infrastructures in the Federal Capital Territory. If those things had been installed, and I don't believe they weren't installed because they didn't exist, then it would have been able to be, it would have been useful for the security agencies to tackle insecurity. And that also means that even the armed forces and the various agencies that are supposed to prevent and ensure that there is security will have enough funds to do their work. And just to give you a very good example, the IMF loan, the $3.4 billion loan from the IMF, if you look at what it was meant to do, it was supposed to be emergency financial assistance for Nigeria to deal with the severe economic impact of COVID-19. And so if that never happened since 2020, you can see the upscale effect, and you can see it. You don't only see it in print, you see it on the faces of people. The Nigerian Bureau of Statistics had said, and that was in 2019, that more than 130 million Nigerians are poor. And the number has grown since then. The number of out of school children in 2015 was 13 million. Now it is almost 20 million. So again, the effect is seen. When money that is meant to develop infrastructure that should promote the socioeconomic rights of people go into private pockets, the result is exactly what we are seeing today.
All right. Can we have your final word so we can let you go? You know, I promised to let you go early, but somehow the network kept you up until now. So let's get your final words, please.
I would thank you very much for these great initiatives, these conversations that are happening. Perhaps there's a lot of people who are cynical and are pessimistic about such conversations having any kind of fruit, but I would want to encourage them and also thank you. These conversations need to go on. We need to continue to talk. Some might want to suggest that conversations like this and trying to hold public institutions accountable would not work. I do not think so. We need to continue to talk. We need to continue to hold people to account through lawful means, and that is why we cannot stop conversations like this, no matter how ineffective it appears. It is really effective. We need to keep it up.
But you know, one final question: do you think we will be able to win the war against corruption in the country in the nearest future, or do you think it's a battle that will linger for a while?
I am optimistic we will win, and I use the we in the sense that the Constitution also used the we, the people, in the introductory section of the Constitution. We, the people, will win the fight against corruptions, not necessarily public officers or public institutions.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Kolawole Oluwadare. All right. For you listening right now, it's time for you to join the fray. It's time for you to join the conversation. Let's get your thoughts in this talk. I mean, look at these numbers flying. Set to have been collected by individuals who were entrusted to lead the nation, who were entrusted to, occupy certain positions of governance, and they have. Now, these are allegations. Nobody has been set to be guilty. Nobody has been set to be corrupt, right? These are allegations. The FCC recovered, EFCC discovered, all of those allegations, right? I mean, yes, they have discovered, but they have not gone to court until they're able to take it to court and prove what they recovered and discovered. We are just, having alleged situations on radio. However, these monies have been set to be missing or taken or stolen or looted, and look at the state of the country. The country is in a state where people are protesting now due to the high cost of living. I mean, some of you went to the market yesterday. Some of you have gone to the market today. And like my guest said, these things have some correlation in the sense that if the government had provided the things they borrowed those monies for, we borrow money and we steal the money we borrow. I'm wondering what's the logic behind it. But if they had done the necessary things, just maybe, we would not be having the insecurity at the scale we have it. We would not be having, the economic situation at the scale we have it. And that's where you come in. You tell me what you think about the situation. 0817 923 0002 and 0817 923 0003. The question I have is this war against corruption. Are we even winning? Like, are we trying to win? Are we in the position that looks like we would win the war against corruption? Because if you look at the past administration, the mantra was anti-corruption fight. We had anti-corruption fight almost every day of that administration. And then look at the revelations that are emanating now. Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Ministry of Aviation. The other day was I'm trying to remember the other ones we saw that made us question whether the former president should be brought to answer to certain questions. Freedom of information, like I talked about with my guest. But I'd like to get your thoughts, just briefly. 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. You could also add the number 0817-923-0007. WhatsApp number 0809-0306-416. I really want to get your thoughts on this. I don't know. I hear the network is really shaky as it relates to WhatsApp, but you can still try sending me those messages. We're back live on Facebook, and there was some network interruption at some point. Nigeria Info PH is the handle. We're also live on YouTube now, Nigeria Info PH, and we're active on X and interactive as well. So if you drop your comments, I read them. Nigeria Info PH, that's the handle as well. So I'm going to go to the phone lines. I've got Clinton standing by, and let's talk corruption in Nigeria. Who's on the line? Oh my. Clinton, yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, good. We don't have strong institutions, but we have strong men in this country.
Okay.
And that has been made very obvious on countless occasions. Those in government, there should be sincerity of purpose. Because some of these policies were brilliant policies to salvage the economic situation of the country. That's why these policies were rolled out. And money were budgeted for certain things. But the problem we'll be having is proper utilization and accountability. How can you get this amount of money and the purpose it was meant for have not been met? And there's no record of the money on ground. And this thing has been going on over and over again. It's like a recurring decimal in this country, Canada. So I think until we have strong institutions, corruption, the battle against corruption would not be won. And the court, even the EFCC that the law have empowered, have been infiltrated. I don't think those people are credible enough to spearhead this fight against corruption. Until that is done, Canada, we will continue in the same circle. Thank you very much.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Dede from Iwofe. Dede, welcome. What is on your mind? I'd like to hear.
Yeah, Canada, I greet you.
Welcome.
From my own point of view, I think the government is not being sincere with fighting corruption. But that's just the question. We are just messing up the system. When you follow the train of how things happen here and judgment giving, we've lost it all. Where you say the court will be contradicting itself as an entity. It is very, very bad. That you said you're self independent in carrying out your activities as one of the arms of this government or the country. But you see politicians always having their way. And on a daily basis, things are going bad. I think the solution is not even in the hands of the politicians because they don't even care for us.
Okay.
It's high time that we, the common man, look at what they are doing to us now. They will enter market and buy what the common man is supposed to buy and bring it back again to us. Then if you go to the market to buy it, you can't buy it. They stocked it. So how are we going to come out?
All right. All right.
By number one. No, listen. It's by number one. We have to place civil disobedience to all government programs. It's high time that we disobey them. It's enough.
How does that? Okay, all right. How does that? All right. Thank you very much, Jay. I've got to let you go at this point. The question is, how does that change the situation? You disobey them, like you said, they don't care about you. So if you disobey them, will that make them care about you now? Anyways, let's read this one. It says, "Hi, $3.4 billion IMF loan vanished. Wow." This is Nigeria. EFCC recovered 30 billion naira from Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs from past and then present minister. Present minister, no, there was the 500 million plus naira, 500 plus million naira that was gotten from the present administration. The former 30 billion naira was gotten from recovered. I guess that's the right word to use. And it says, let Nigerians see how the COVID-19 and the so-called palliative money went about. It is so unfortunate. Yes, it is indeed. And this conversation, I do think, is very pertinent, so the Nigerians can begin to ask their leaders to be accountable and follow the money as the money is spent. 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. 0817-923-0007. Let's get your thoughts. WhatsApp, I guess, is down. I do not know why. I guess the network is terrible, but we also need to talk about how terrible telecommunication services are these days. We should talk about it, I believe. I've been without internet network, not even just internet. I've been without call network for call service for 4 days now, thereabouts. I've got Obina from Irebe. Obina, welcome. What is on your mind?
Yeah, the man of the people, Mr. Kalada.
All right, welcome.
Yes, good afternoon once again.
Yeah.
You see, this issue of corruption in Nigeria, I think Nigeria is a hotbed for corruption and corrupt activity.
Okay.
I mean that there's a lot of corruption that is going on in this country. And even the government and the Nigerians are paying lip service for it. As a matter of fact, don't be disturbed by the EFCC chasing people around. They are just, doing window dressing, or trying to do as if something is happening. What has happened to the majority of the corrupt cases, allegations, or both allegations and non-allegations that we have seen in this country? At some point, you will not hear about it again.
All right.
And the people who were accused will be walking free in the streets. They will be doing training parties, buying cars, living above their means. SERAP is going about bringing out many law suits. What has happened? Since, let me say, for the past 4 years, SERAP has sued for more than 100 times, and at the end of the day, nothing comes out. That is to tell you that the structure in Nigeria, everything is tilted towards corruption. They only get you arrested or get you, troubled when you are against their structure, when you are against their government. As far as you are with them, steal the whole money in this country, nothing will happen to you. Look at the situation we are in this country today. Because of corruption is flourishing.
All right, then.
That is my take, my brother.
All right, thank you very much, Obina. Quickly, while I'm waiting for the last call before the commercial break, let's see this one. It says, when we say Buhari government took Nigeria 40 years backward, we can't win the fight against corruption. Buhari government printed 23 trillion and with nowhere to be found, and we borrow and loot. So how do we get things right? Am I from warfare? I don't know about your allegation about printing 23 trillion naira. I don't think I have that statistics or data anywhere, but I hear you. This one says, what Nigeria is suffering today and will continue to suffer are the effects of corruption, and when When I say corruption, I don't mean only stealing, diverting, or embezzlement of public funds. It includes other misbehaviors like going to work late because it's government work, hiding of files in the office, not treating files when it should, and so many others, especially owing worker salaries. We must kill corruption for we to witness any form of growth and development. Ibu Fubara is my name, you say. Hearing these figures and these unimaginable things is increasing my blood pressure. Escobar, sorry about that. Let's see. This one says civil disobedience can tackle this heap of mess in the country. Following the money is equally a paradigm that is meaningless in our context of checking corruption. The immediate solution is a revolutionary regime change in the... Okay, no. I'm just going to end it there. Thank you very much for your thoughts. There's a commercial break coming, so I have to step on the brakes. We'll continue on this issue. We'll talk about this and many other issues when it is time for the open season. For now, commercial break, and after that, news update. And when we come back, we're talking security or security architecture in Rivers State. Stay tuned.